Hello my friends and welcome. This is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's zoom into the Krynky village to Kherson Oblast, where Russia tried to perform one more attack, gaining control over some of the territory. But they haven't achieved that result and totally failed with their attack. So what tactics do they use over there? They use this road. It is the main supply road for them. So they advance using this one, and then they go to the forest using many of the roads between those woods, and finally they go to Krynky for the actual fight. But it's very rare that they get to their destination, because usually they got spotted somewhere in this place and Ukraine fires artillery from the other part of the shore, targeting the Russian convoys. And also our guys in Krynky are using the FPV drones to target the Russian convoys again and again. We're gonna speak today more about the FPV drones and how important they are for the Ukrainian defense. This video I shared today on my Telegram channel. So this is the Russian tank and it was targeted by the FPV drone. I believe the tank was T-72B3. As you can see, the single drone was enough for the tank just to burst into flames, so complete loss of the tank for the Russian Federation. The FPV drones are very important, especially now that we have the lack in artillery munition. So FPV drones may play similar role, especially targeting the moving targets like moving tanks, armored vehicles. The similar stuff might be done with the help of the javelins, but FPV drones sometimes have much longer distance, and also you may launch them from the cover. One of the Ukrainian military experts say that we have enough funds to purchase some of the artillery shells, but there are no artillery shells now available on the market because Ukraine already took what was available from the European Union and from the United States, as well as from many other countries. In the conditions where Ukraine doesn't have enough aviation, artillery has to do the job of aviation partially. That's why we need more and more artillery shells, but now there are not adequate amount of the shells on the market, so Ukraine had to quit some of the operations on the eastern side of Ukraine. But the FPV drones might take the part of the job because they're very precise, so you use less shells on FPV compared to artillery. Well, the caliber and the shells are different. Nevertheless, we need lots of the FPV drones, and today this message was told to President from the Ukrainian society. It happened during the big press conference of Vladimir Zelensky that was available also on YouTube. He answered many of the questions. In this video we also gonna speak about it as well, and just read the comments. FPV, 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 FPV. So we need the government program for the FPV drones in particular. Unfortunately, we don't have it yet. So flying shells, very precise shells, seems to be not so interesting for our government. But why? Because still they underestimate the importance of the FPV drones. The ex-defense minister didn't support it, and now, yes, there is some move. Hopefully Ukrainian volunteers will break through this wall and will have the government support, because right now 90% of all of the FPV drones are just got bought by people, by volunteers, and delivered to army, and just 10% delivered by government. But Russia has the government program for the FPV, and they have spare parts, they have drones, they have communication, let's say, with Chinese People's Republic. But Russia has the government program, they have communication directly with suppliers, and they sent lots of the drones to their army. They understood the importance of it. Still, they're not capable to use those drones as well as Ukraine, so Ukraine now still prevails in technique. But if we speak about the quantity, Russia already has many more FPVs compared to Ukraine. Russians are now in lack of the proper training. In Ukraine, people are willing to fly FPVs because they save lots of their lives, and we have many of the drone pilots. Russia still doesn't have lots of those pilots, but soon they will have everything. And if Ukraine fails developing this program for FPV, Unfortunately, Russia will prevail over Ukraine in FPV, and it is very, very important tool nowadays. Delivering the shell almost everywhere, there is almost no place to hide from the FPV drone. Just imagine this tool. One of the biggest Ukrainian volunteers, Sternenko, said that there is the light at the end of the tunnel. So now he is communicating with the high Ukrainian military command, and we hope for the new reforms in the drone sector. Because yes, we have some of the drones, surveillance drones and long-range drones to target something, but we need the reliable tool just on the front lines, just on the trenches, to basically save the lives of our soldiers. Finally, President Zelensky promised that they will organize the government support program and they will produce 1 million drones the next year. Well, hopefully. Also, yesterday I showed you the Russian advancement in Robotyne using 2 BMDs. So it wasn't the artillery, it was the drone job over there. Drones, the FPV drones, are ruling. So we need some sort of the surveillance drone to spot the Russian convoys, to spot the Russian soldiers or vehicles or whatever. And later on, FPV is sent to actually target this vehicle. So let's go back to Krynky. Today Russia failed advancing with their tanks over here. That's why they sent just infantry later. The infantry was spotted by Ukrainian surveillance drones and was targeted by the FPV drones plus artillery. Nothing is left from the Russian infantry. I'm unable to show you those pictures of actual soldiers lying on the ground on this platform. So sorry about it, you have to believe to what I saw on Telegram, but if you want to confirm, I'll post that on my Telegram channel. I will not post everything because again some of the images could be disturbing even for Telegram. So Russians thought that instead of using vehicles that have just a fixed trajectory in this area using the field roads, they could use, they thought like that, the infantry, which might go straight through the forest to Ukrainian positions, but it didn't work. Again, Krynky is the big problem for the Russian army because Ukraine might concentrate enough sources to advance further to cut the supply road for Russians. They want to avoid it with all of their available resources in this region, and they already lost single division in their attack attempts. But some of the journalists might say that it's the unsuccessful Ukrainian tactics or something like that, especially from the New York Times. I read the article fully, and now I might say that this article is total bullshit, so we'd better trust the local soldiers who fight in this area. And one of those soldiers is Magyar. The video of his attitude towards the journalists who published complete bullshit you may find in the community of my YouTube channel or on Telegram. I shared his video, it is available with subtitles. So mathematically, Russia has enormous losses in this region, many more compared to Ukraine, but still they say that this operation is unsuccessful. Why Ukraine is moving their forces over here? Yes, I also say that we shouldn't stay here on one place for a long time. It's better to assault on the Russian positions, to move with extra forces, but the winter time is not good for that. I believe that the next year Ukraine is going to start the counteroffensive using Krynky as one of the main bridgeheads. Okay, we briefly touched the topic of the possible Ukrainian offensive the next year. From one of the French journalists, she asked him what are the intentions of the Ukrainian army the next year. And it seems like President Zelensky as well as Ukrainian military command learned the lessons from this year. Then the counteroffensive on the south was announced widely. So President Zelensky says that Ukraine will stay calm this time and no one will tell anything, at least from the official sources. By the way, I'm not the official source, so I may say my own opinion based on facts. I may say that Ukraine might go to Luhansk, I may say that Ukraine might go to the south. Obviously, the best direction for Ukrainian army is to the north, straight to Moscow. But our partners would not be satisfied with that, so I continue to say that this war is kind of strange, because Ukraine has to assault on the very secured territories of its own, but Prigozhin already showed that 4,000 armed men marching to Moscow is enough for Kremlin to shit in its pants. So the best tactics for Ukraine is to take 5% of the army and go to Moscow. It would be obviously a victory, and we already understand how Russia might protect its own territory. Just remember how the Russian Volunteer Corps together with Legion of Freedom were storming the Belgorod Oblast for a couple of months. But Ukraine is forced to fight on its own territory with unknown outcome. From what we see, the military support dropped, so in that case I think our partners shouldn't demand from Ukraine just to stay on its territory. Ukraine needs to win this war, and from what I see, the only possible way is to get rid of the Russians regime. Even if Ukraine takes back all of its territory, including Crimea, Donbass, it wouldn't mean the end of the war. The Russian tyranny and dictatorship should be punished. It should lose this war. Otherwise, they might try again and again, as many times as they want. If we speak about the older wars that happened in the 20th century, obviously, Ukraine in that case would go to Moscow with all of the forces available. But now we just need not more than 5% of our army to be victorious. Yes, you may say that Russia might use nuclear weaponry in that case, but they may use it in this case as well. Now President Zelensky is saying that Zaluzhny asked him to mobilize 500,000 more soldiers into a Ukrainian army. It means that the current forces are not enough and Ukraine also has losses. That's why that number is so huge. But President Zelensky says that he will think about this stuff, because to mobilize 500,000 soldiers, he said we need 3 times more taxpayers for that. The current state of Ukrainian army and the budget of the country is unable to process 500,000 soldiers to equip them with everything they need. At the same time, Shoigu today announced that they will increase the number of the soldiers in the Russian army. He said about 1.5 million, so they need to hire 400,000 more soldiers. But now they raised the salary, as I told you already many times. That's why there are many volunteers from the depressed regions of Russia who are willing to fight in Ukraine. And unfortunately, because of the lack in our weaponry, Ukraine has to mobilize more soldiers into the army to counteract the Russian efforts in gaining the Ukrainian territory. Unfortunately, Russia propelled today on many parts of the front lines. Let's review it on the deep state military map. For the last day, Russia moved quite a lot in the Bakhmut sector. They moved towards Hromove. Over here, they mostly control that village already. They moved towards Klishivka in this area and towards Ivanovsk as well. So they have multiple vectors of their attacks from the Bakhmut city. Unfortunately, I may say that they've already took initiative in the Bakhmut area for sure. In July, Ukraine was fighting for Berhivka. It was the counterattack from the Ukrainian side, but now we're really far away from that place. Russia pushed Ukrainian forces towards Bogdanivka, and there was the fight for Klishivka. Ukraine liberated Andriivka village not long time ago, but Russia started to push here again. As for Klishivka, if Russia continues to move over here, if they take those hills under control, Ukraine would have to leave Klishivka, it's obvious. Unfortunately, Russia has the main attack vector over here straight to the hills, and it means that they potentially might take Klishivka under control. As you see, they understand the terrain and the vulnerability of the Ukrainian positions on the hill. In Avdiivka, Russia is still getting ready for their massive attack in attempt to encircle this town, yet we don't have the information of when Russia will start this massive attack, but for sure they're going to do it. Hopefully Ukraine will be ready for this move. Also, if we go to the southwest part from the Donetsk city, there is the village of Novomikhailivka, and for the last 5 days Russia moved quite a lot in this area, trying to get this village under control. As you can see, the vast part of the village is already in the gray zone. It means that some of the Russian troops are fighting over there. Not a good sign, but the further movement for the Russian army is still under the question, because it's the natural obstacle, the river over here, the valley, the hills. So I don't think it's quite profitable direction for them. I think that Marinka is much more profitable, and they might try to go to Kurakhove from Marinka. But again, it's the worst case scenario. There is one more direction where Russia tried to advance but failed completely. We're speaking about Synkivka village in Kypyansk region. Again, it's the fourth consecutive failed Russian assault attempt, and we have the video from the place. Let me show it to you. As you can see, the weather is quite foggy. Russia used 3 of the tanks and 3 of the BMPs with infantry. They try to use the fog to advance. They think that Ukraine is unable to spot them in the thick fog. But our drones did it, and Russia lost many of the vehicles. This one was kaboomed just on a mine. It means that Ukraine got prepared for the Russian advancement. It's the good sign. Also, again, the FPV drones are doing fantastic job on the front lines, targeting lots of the Russian tanks. The tank was kaputted with the help of the single FPV drone. Very precise fire, so even during the fog, poor meteor conditions, drones are very capable. So again, we see the Russian insanity. They perform the same action again and again, waiting for something to change, and in this particular direction, it's total failure for them. Just for the last 10 days, I counted 4 Russian major assaults in this place, and all of them were finished with the same outcome. The full video about this one is available on my Telegram channel, so my friends, don't forget to subscribe for me on Telegram. You may find it in the video description just below. The Russian army also has the losses in artillery. For example, this video was filmed by the Russian soldier, artillerist, who lost his system on the front lines. He wasn't really far away than the shell hit his artillery D-30, severely damaging the system, so they are unable to use it any longer. Finally, Pentagon is going to do something with the modern-day pirates, Houthis. They attack many of the civilian ships in the Red Sea. Because of that, the main logistic lines were interrupted. Alright, let me explain you the big problem that we currently have in the global logistics. So this is Yemen, and this part actually acts like pirates in the Red Sea over here. As we all know, Houthis are Iranian proxies, and they also obtain weaponry from Russia, same as from Iran. So basically, Iran decided to block the way out and the way into the Red Sea. Red Sea is very important. Here we have Egypt with its Suez Channel that was artificially made, and it is crucial. Couple of years ago, the evergreen container ship just blocked Suez Channel because of the failure in navigation of the ship, and that incident alone caused more than $10 billion of the losses all around the world. Because the other case, how you can get from America to Asia or from Europe to Asia, is to go all around the Africa. Or here, instead of going to the Mediterranean, shorter way, you go also all around Africa. Well, for the United States and for the South America, it's not that critical compared to Europe. Just imagine you have the ship in Greece somewhere or in Italy, and you have to cover all of this distance close to Antarctica, whatever, and then go to India, China, Malaysia, or Indonesia, or Australia. It's just crazy. And now the pro-Iranian Houthis created the same stuff as evergreen container ship created 2 years ago. The ship owners just afraid to send their ships through the Red Sea. Because of that, they had to send them all across the African continent to China and to other countries. Well, not all of the companies are sending their ships in this way, but the biggest ones like Maastricht. Maybe they would like to send their ships through the Red Sea, but the insurance companies are not agreed with that. In case something goes wrong with their ships, insurance companies will not pay, because those risks are not in the contracts and you cannot control the risks of being attacked by pirates. So in a way, it's easier for the ship owners to send their ships all around Africa and pay more than to deal with insurance companies in case something goes wrong with their ships. That's why the only way is to create the coalition, including the United States of America, and to send the military ships to protect the civilian ones in the Red Sea. But there is one big problem. Yemen continued to use the long-range drones like Shahids. They got them again from Iran, so how would the military ships shut down all of those drones? They're damn cheap, and the Red Sea is quite big, so you need lots of the military ships to protect civilian ships. Again, it would cost lots of the funds. So the best case would be for Yemen to lose the support from Iran if something goes wrong with Iranian regime. But if that won't help, I think the other coalition would be potentially created, including Saudi Arabia, to land the forces in Yemen. It is one more scenario. Remember, a decade ago we had a similar problem with pirates, but over here near to Somalia, also very close to the Red Sea, on the way out to the Indian Ocean. This problem was solved with many of the military ships, and I think this problem, the new one, will also be solved in a similar manner. So the operation of patrolling to secure the Red Sea will be conducted by the Great Britain, by the United States obviously, Bahrain, Canada, France, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Seychelles and Spain. Some of the countries will conduct patrols in the Red Sea and some will provide intelligence support and other stuff. North Korea again launched the ballistic missile. It flown for more than 600 kilometers. The crazy dictator with the rockets capable to carry nukes, and they do have nukes. How did it happen? Why the world allowed North Korea to have nukes? I'm out of clue, honestly. There were some of the negotiations between North Korean dictator and Trump before direct talks, but what is the conclusion? Since that time, North Korea just has more weaponry, even submarines, so it's total nonsense to negotiate in that way with this dictatorship regime. It will not change anything. If Trump wants to negotiate with Putin as he negotiated with North Korean leader or dictator Kim Jong-un, it is the useless try. Sanctions and military support of the South Korea, those are two ways out to solve this problem with this dictatorship country. The problem here that North Korea has the direct border with Russia and China, so those two countries support North Korea for sure. Without them, North Korea would be nothing. In that way, sanctions should be applied on them as well. This video was filmed today from Borispol Airport. Oh my god, the commercial airliner Boeing 777 took off from the runway 18 left. From what I can see, it is my home base airport. I really miss flying. This particular airplane was the last one to land in Borispol just a few minutes before Putin announced the full-scale war against Ukraine. I personally know the pilot who was flying this airplane, and he came back home and his wife told him that the war has just begun. It was the flight from Dominicana to Kiev Borispol. That pilot is my friend, and he couldn't believe in what was happening because he was outside from Ukraine for around 1 week, so he was not really aware of the events that were happening just before the full-scale war against Ukraine. So it was a huge surprise for him personally. Then he landed the airplane almost into the war zone. Luckily, the airplane was intact for all of that time and was able to take off, and it will fly somewhere else good for her. My friends, don't forget to press the like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. Also, if you want to support my job, you may find some of the links in the video description just below. Special thanks for my Patreon supporters and the sponsors of my YouTube channel. Guys, you do a fantastic job. Thank you so much for it. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.